What's up, YouTube? Doing an install on the Fluidampr today. Was just going to install it. Figured I'd show a how-to because some people have issues with crank pulleys. The Fluidampr is a crank pulley, pretty heavy one, as a matter of fact. Harmonic balancer, if you will. I have had lightweight pulleys in the past. Haven't had issues with them, but there is some balancing issues. They say that a fluid damper or just a damper in general is what the stock piece is, kind of helping with vibrations, maybe smoothing things out a little bit. The crank pulley's kind of older anyway, so I figured I'd replace it. And this is an expensive piece, though. I'm not gonna lie. This was like $500. This guy. And it is no joke. The difference between this and I think there's an ATI model as well. The ATI model, A, it's a little bit easier to install, but B, it's kind of like a preference. I did a little bit of research. You can do research on them yourself. I went with Fluidampr personally, but they're both around the same thing. The ATI one is going to be a balancer as well, but it also is a little bit lighter, so it's up to you. I'm good with a heavier one. This one's actually slightly heavier than stock, so but it should help with the vibrations or just the smoothness of the motor in general. It's kind of like a longevity mod. Think of like an air oil separator kind of thing. Okay, so we're gonna be attacking this guy right here. Obviously, it looks a little bit old. We'll go over the tools that you need here. Not too many. 12 millimeter and some way to take obviously use that ratchet or like a impact. You are going to need to do some cutting. I'll show you where. Not a lot, but a little bit. And then a 22 millimeter with a breaker bar. I'm just using, most people don't have breaker bars. I have one, but it's just easier to show it this way. Just use your jack. Just use your jack handle. You can really extend some stuff out here. Obviously, if it's a quality ratchet, you don't want to use some cheap. This is DeWalt, which is not too much. It's not Craftsman, but it's pretty good. It won't break. You could break other stuff, and you want to use a 1/2 inch here. You don't want to use a 3/8 because that will break. And also safety first, like I always do, mismatched socks and sandals. Okay, so first thing, we're going to put this puppy here. You can take the belt off, or belts if you have AC, off first, but you don't have to. So we'll put this puppy on right here. Leave that right there. And what you want to do is we got to keep the motor from spinning when we turn it, right? So there's a couple different ways to do this. I've done all three, well, four. First and most preferred method is to buy a tool or kind of fabricate your own tool that would hold the pulley in place. And you can see there's 4 holes on the pulley. This one is actually even more convenient because it has screw in, so I can actually put bolts in when we go to tighten it down. But there's a tool specifically to hold the pulley in place while you do this. That is the best way to do it. I'm not going to be doing it that way. I don't think most people are going to invest in a crank pulley tool just for this. They're not too expensive. You can buy them probably on Amazon, a cheap, shitty knockoff for like 20, 30 bucks. But you don't need to do that. You really don't. So other ways to do it are to, if you have a breaker bar, you can actually, and I don't have enough room, but I've done this several times in the past, is take the wrench or socket, turn it either way. Pick a way, doesn't fucking matter. Turn it down to where the actual bar is going to be going through this section. You can see I don't have room because I have a front mount, right? I could do it over here, I guess, and it would hit the frame of the car instead. But either way, lean it up against the frame of the car or the floor, so you're pointing at an angle down that way. And then all you do is actually just you can turn off we can disconnect the fuel pump fuse, or you can just lightly tap the starter. Just go click like that, and that'll actually break it loose. Again, a lot of people swear by that method. I've done it a bunch. That's mainly the method that I use. But for this, I wanted to do it a little bit differently, maybe a little bit safer for some people. Kind of go from there. So the other method you can use is to chalk the car like I have here. Just little pieces of wood, not a big deal. Piece of wood. I even put a battery back there to hold that fucker straight so you can tell I'm classy. That's locked, so that's not going to work. And then put the car in a high gear. So if you have a 6-speed, you can put it in 6. You can put it in 5th. Doesn't matter. I'll put it in 5th. And then what we'll do is you can either, instead of the chocks as well, you can have somebody hold the brakes. That's the other variation of this. Instead of chalking it down, putting it in gear, You can put it in gear and have somebody hold the brakes, or you chug it. I'm not going to bother my wife with this. So that right there, set that up. It's going to move a little bit, but then once it hits the chalk, it's going to stop. I already kind of loosened this puppy up, so it's not going to be. Mine was super tight, though. I had to really get out here and then crank it. So now you can see it's loose. So I'm loosening it right now. It's not even loose at all, but you're going to have to crank it with some force. So that's that step, right? So now we got that puppy loose. We can start taking things off. Mainly the 12s that would be in our way here. So let's get this on. Okay, so now we're loosening up these with our 12. Pretty easy. That puppy on there. Really difficult while holding the camera. There we go, we're loosening that up. Don't need to take it all the way off, just loosen it. Same with this one, don't need to take it all the way off, just loosen. Gotcha. And then we're going to loosen this bolt right here, and that should bring the belt down. There you go, you can see the belt all the way loose. Put this over here. Take this off right here. Okay. Now I had already kind of removed the pulley, but I put it back on for this, so I'm just going to pull this puppy off. There we go. Pulley's off. All right, now the next step is if you're installing any other lightweight pulley or the ATI, even Subarusti pulley, you're good. I think you can just install from here. But with the Fluidampr, it actually comes with instructions as well. It says this. You have to trim this little lip right here. This little lip that goes around. Let's look at the back of these. Because you're not going to have as much. You see the recess in this right here? You don't have that on the Subarusti or on the Fluidampr. So you have to trim right there for it. We could just trim as it stands right now. But I'm kind of worried that if I do that, it'll get in the timing cover. So what I can do is, at the very least, take this side off, maybe take it all the way off, and then trim it. And I'm not going to show me pulling these bolts off. They're 10mm bolts, pretty easy. Just pull those off. Mine's are a little bit more complicated because mine are because of the front mount piping on this side. This side should be easy, but I'll do that, pull it off, and then we'll go. Okay, so we got the timing cover off here. We're going to do some trimming right there, but before we do, now's a good time with everything kind of off. Kind of had to pull things a little bit to the side just because the front mount and a swapped car is a little bit more tight. Could have pulled that all the way off, but didn't really need to. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to check the timing. Might as well while we're here, right? So we can pull this line up. You see that line right there? We know about where it goes. And then we can kind of look at other stuff. That could be the first iteration. Let's see. That is, because you can see, unless my timing's 180 degrees off, that is the first iteration. So we're going to go one more again. Keep turning. We're almost there. See the line? Right there. Pretty much where I want to be. Let's check this. 1 to 1. Pretty much perfect. Check over here. That one's fun to get off. Check the timing here. See that right there? 1 to 1. The bottom ones, we can check those as well. Pretty easy. Just kind of look down there. We don't really need to go crazy. This side's going to be easier, obviously, because I have more room. You can see the line down there. See a line right there. Let's wait for it to focus. Yep. There. Now on this side, that's going to be impossible to view. But I just timed my vehicle recently, so I'm not really concerned with that. Right now, what we'll do is we'll trim this puppy up. So what I'm going to do is, you don't have to do it this way. You can do it a different way. I'm literally going to take this guy. This is way too much. You don't really need this. But I'm just going to take this lip all the way off. Pretty quick and easy. Don't need to show that on a video. It's going to just melt the plastic. But it'll be pretty quick here. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so we got it flat. What I did was I went through with the cutting wheel, and then I came back around with kind of this kind of like buffer almost, if you will. And kind of ground it down a little bit. So I took most of it off with the wheel. Dremel would be better, obviously, like a cutting wheel. This was good. No one's going to see this. I mean, the pulley's going to cover it, so it's not a huge deal. But again, you want it flush, and then you can just reinstall. So let's go ahead and put this back on. Again, clean it up too. I'm going to clean up the back. I took like a X-Acto knife and kind of scraped the edge here to make sure it was nice and clean. But I'll actually wash it too, and then we'll put it back on. Okay, got the covers back on. You can see how flush the trimming that we did, how flush it is with the rest of the timing cover now. There's no kind of protrusion there. Now we're going to put the pulley on. You want to make sure that you can see the notch there, the little groove. That's going to make sure the keyway, or that is the keyway, make sure the key goes through that. You don't want to obviously tighten it without doing that. So we can shove that on. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. What's pretty cool is I believe this mark right here is going to be for your timing mark. So if you wanted to check timing and you just want to take the sides off, I think that is how you could do it, if I'm not mistaken. Double check that, but okay. So keyway, you can't really get this wrong. I mean, you can get it wrong, but you'll feel it go on to the keyway. Let's look and see right there. Let's see where the keyway's in the right spot. Key's in the right spot. Let's see. This is not a light piece by any means. Again, merely 7 pounds. That feels close. All right, I'm going to do it with 2 hands now just because it's easier. Okay, so pulley is on. How to use 2 hands. Just hand tightened the crank pulley bolt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a torque wrench, kind of torque it to spec. Same thing as before. Put it in a high gear. I think I put it in 3rd, but this time the truck locks are going to go in another spot in the front as opposed to the rear, because you're going to be pulling motor back or forwards. So then you're just going to torque. You can have somebody hold the brakes as well. But I have this torqued, just so you're aware. This I'm going to torque to 115. Some say 100, some say 130. I know the torque on the EJ207s can be a little bit higher. So I'm going to do in the middle at a 115. Kind of go from there. So let's torque this down. Hear it. Double check. There we go. And we are torqued down to spec. Now, simple stuff. Just putting the belt back on. Hopefully this still fits. Of course it'll fit. Can't see why it wouldn't. You would have the AC belt to put on as well. Hold on, let me slide that over. Very easy to do one-handed. Put that right there. And then actually we'll put this right here. There we go. And slide this puppy over. There we are. Belt's back on. Last thing to do would just be to put this on, this on, this on, and this on. You can see the lube here. I did lube up the actual crank pulley where the keyway was, just to ensure that I was getting on the keyway appropriately and I wasn't missing it. I wanted to make sure it was sliding on efficiently without, busting that keyway up. So now we'll tighten these all down. Bring this puppy up. Tighten this puppy up. It's good and tight. Yep. Good to go. Now the install is complete. I will drive it around, let you know how it feels. But that's the quick and dirty, very easy install. Hope you guys enjoyed.